All right, it looks like we're live now. Sorry for I was having some technical difficulties. I couldn't get the camera on the actual Sony camera I'm using to connect to the computer. It was automatically default connecting to my MacBook. So apologize for that. So we're a few minutes late, but don't want to waste any time. So um, we'll get started in just a second. I want to just like allow some people to come in. But thank you for all of you that are here right now. If you're here in the chat, drop your name, drop where you're watching from, where you're listening from. Hope you all are having a good Saturday. If you're watching live, and if you're watching on the replay, I hope you're having a good day. This week's been pretty crazy for me. I had my refrigerator go out this week, so I had to get a brand new refrigerator. It was like during the middle of the work week too, so it was like hustle and bustle. Then I had to drive like an hour to pick up a refrigerator, and I had to get a dolly from my dad, and then go up there and get it. And it was a whole thing getting it into the house. So we made it work. It's good. It's a nice refrigerator, but it's definitely been something else. So with that being said, we don't want to waste any time. Um, this is the second live stream on this channel, and just want to say thank you to everybody that's supported the channel so far. And thank you for if you're watching on the replay. If you're live here and you have questions, please feel free to drop them down in the chat at any point in time. This stream, I have an agenda, but like kind of a little bit more loose and relaxed. I want to just kind of, again, I'm open to your feedback on how you like to see these things done. I don't want to just get on here and just like, I don't know. I think this is an opportunity for us to be able to hang out. And I don't want to just be super rigid with whatever that looks like. But yeah, so a couple announcements real quick that I want to hit on for the channel. And then we'll roll right into the content. So let me take a sip of my coffee. Again, this is like, I haven't even had a sip of coffee this morning. I haven't even had, I'm gonna say it's morning. It's like it's almost lunchtime. If you're watching on the replay, let me know where you're watching from, what time it is, where you're watching. But yeah, I haven't even had a sip of coffee. I've been like nonstop this morning. If the audio sounds bad too, again, let me know. Cause again, I like hopped on here and the camera wasn't connecting and I didn't even really pay too much attention to the audio. It looks like we got pretty good audio. But yeah, so the channel's grown a lot in the past few months, ever since January. We've now crossed like over 250 subscribers, which is, it's pretty crazy because I don't know. It's just like the growth that's happened on this channel. It's been insane. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and I look forward to seeing where this community goes. It's super cool, and I just can't believe like the amount of growth that the channel's had in this short of a time. Let me take a sip of my coffee, like I said I was going to do. Yeah, and I'm always open to feedback from you all. I'm always in the comments, looking at what you guys are saying and getting feedback from you all for the content. And let me know that in this video or other videos, like future content that you'd be interested in seeing. I've done a few community posts, and I know you guys probably your inboxes are probably filled up with notifications. You're probably there's a million different distractions out there, and I know some of those like posts, they get buried in some of those things. And for me too, I don't see a lot of it for the creators that I watch. I don't really see a lot of the content they put out these days, and I'm not sure if that's by design or I don't know what it is. But yeah, so the next announcement is I recently released a free reading masterclass for anyone that wants to become a reader. And it's like it's like a full system for you to go from not reading at all to becoming a reader and doing the self-education thing. And it's completely free. It's here on YouTube. Maybe I can throw that in the chat, or I'll pin that or put that in the description. Let me see if I can just drop that in the chat real quick. But yeah, I made it to be helpful, and I'm open to your feedback on that as well, because I probably will be doing another one at some point. And yeah, and it might be, I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but just based on the feedback that you all give, I'd be interested to see what was helpful, what you need, what you still have questions about. And I'm just kind of throwing that in the chat right now. But yeah, so those are the announcements. And yeah, it's been a crazy week. I wanted to go live again. I don't know. It just seemed like it was. I enjoyed going live, and I got some interaction from you all, and that was pretty cool. And I just wanted to present an opportunity for myself and the audience to be able to connect. Sometimes it's hard with the YouTube comments, and there's no DMs on here. And I have I'm working on building my social media profiles on Instagram and TikTok and the other social media accounts, but right now, it's just not at a point. Main focus has really been YouTube here, and then once the channel gets some good momentum, I might start focusing on the other platforms. Um, but yeah, again, at any point in time you have questions in the stream, drop them inside. Hope you all are having a good weekend, and yeah. So what I wanted to talk about is, most people, I think they think reading books automatically is going to make them smarter. Um, but reading books without reflection and focus and action can make you forget most of what you read. And then you just feel like, nothing's changed. Um, Let me know, have you ever finished a book and realized, a week later or 2 weeks later that you barely remember what you read? Like, just sit there and think about, like, if you've been reading a book, or maybe it's been longer than that, especially like if you're inconsistent. It's what is that? What do you remember from the book? A lot of times I found myself in that situation where I don't, like, I'll be reading a book, and then uh like I think I'm reading the book well, and I'm getting through it, I'm making some progress, and then a week or two goes by and I don't really remember anything from the book. And that's really frustrating, especially because, you want the return on investment on your time. We're all busy people. The world I don't know. I don't have any data to back this right now, but the world is super busy, and we're all busy. And especially if you have kids and stuff, your time is very limited. And so you want to be making good use of your time. Um, and so that can be incredibly frustrating. Um, the problem isn't reading itself, it's probably how you're reading. And there's times when I've read books and didn't retain or apply the knowledge, and ultimately I didn't reap the benefits. I didn't get the long term knowledge. I would highlight. I could probably show you here on my Kindle app. There is where, like, I was just going crazy with the highlights. Um, and this was like when I was reading the book. Yeah. So when I was reading, you might not be able to see this, but when I was reading $100 million leads, it's just like nothing but highlights. And this is probably in the way, but you can see just a bunch of highlights here. And it's too much. I just got to the point where I was highlighting everything, because it's like, oh yeah, this is good information. This is good information. I'll come back to it. And I never did. And the problem was is I was highlighting, but I wasn't actually integrating it into my life. Um, but also another problem could be like jumping between books without connecting ideas. So, like, I just read How to Read a Book, and anybody that wants to start reading, totally recommend. Talked about this book a little bit on the last live stream, and I've referenced this book in a couple of other videos. It's this book, and then Make It Stick. These were like, this is the science of successful learning. And this is a lot of what I do on this YouTube channel. So I took ideas that I learned from Make It Stick, and I was able to connect them with ideas that are in the book, How to Read a Book. And it just gave me a better overall understanding of, like, how we learn whenever we read. And so jumping between multiple books without connecting those ideas, it's not becoming, it's fragile knowledge. And then another problem is like trying to read fast for the sake of just speed, but you don't actually remember what you're reading. So again, slow down. With that, I would suggest to, like, slow down. And it's not about how many books you read. It's about the depth of knowledge that you develop with the books that you have read. Which of these mistakes have you made? Are you one that highlights every single thing in the book? Like, you open up a book and the entire book's pretty much highlighted. Do you jump in between multiple books, or Are you just trying to read super fast and trying to read as many books as possible? I'd love to know down in the chat or in the comments on the replay. Um, so some of the things is like if you three common challenges that all readers face is like if you can't explain it simply, then you don't really understand it. And I try to think things like if I'm having a conversation with my friends, and again, a lot of my buddies, they're some of them are into the self education thing and reading thing, some of them are not. And if I'm ever talking to them about something that I've learned or something I'm interested in or something I've been researching and reading about, and I a lot of times I'll be rambling and um, I'll get to a point where like, oh crap, I don't actually remember. And then I'm like, yeah, I probably need to do some more research on that. And then I don't really understand all of it yet, but I'm still learning about it. And that's usually how the conversation will go if it's on a topic that I haven't fully grasped quite yet. And so I say if you can't explain it to someone in the simplest of terms and the shortest amount of terms, and how to read a book, it talks about one of the things that the first thing that you should do is like state the unity of the book, and basically it's like what's the main idea of the book in the least amount of words possible. And if you can do that, then you most likely understand what you just read at a deeper level. The next thing is like or I just say like before I move on to the next thing is like pick a concept from the last book and um, can't ask yourself, can you actually explain it in your words, not the author's words, right? For me, for a long time, I would just take notes and basically just transcribe the information from the book to my notes. And and the thought process was like what I did in school, right? I would just write down notes that the instructor or the professor or the teacher would talk about, and then I would have it in my notes, and then I would study it. But it's actually much more effective to take things and write it in your own words, because what you're doing is you're basically just wrestling with that information and distilling it down to like your words versus just transcribing, because if you're just transcribing it from the book to or from what you're reading or what you're listening to the your actual notes, then and you're only relying on going back and rereading and cramming that information versus recalling the information that was just said and then stating it in your own words. It's much more effective, according to learning science, and this is something that's talked about in the book Make It Stick. Active recall is much more effective than just cramming the information. Like, so another thing is like cramming does work in short bursts, but active recall, which is like reflecting on the material and then kind of uh, remembering it and then applying it, that is far more effective than just cramming information. Okay, so pick that concept from the last book and see if you can explain it in your own words. Now, the next that problem is like there's no change in your behavior, right? So reading ideas without applying them is like going to the gym and exercising without any resistance. You might be like just going through the motions, but you're not actually growing. Um, Name one book that's actually changed something in your life. I'll tell you, for me, whenever I read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. A lot, well, before I read that book, I would just read the book and it was just like there. I didn't take notes on it. It was kind of done. And I was like, yeah, I got it up here. Like, I remember when I read Crush It by Gary Vee. I'm like, yeah, it's all up here. I'm ready to do this social media thing. And then, time went on and I didn't actually apply a lot of the principles taught in that book. I would have been much more successful if I would have applied what I learned from that book earlier on. And I say successful, like, I mean, however you want to define that. I would have had a lot better success with social media early on if I would have actually applied those things, right? So when I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, this is a pretty practical book, and there's steps in this book that like you can just immediately read it and then go out and apply it in your life. So what I try to do is I would try to, and I talk about this in my chapter capture method, is I will try to pick three or when I get done reading a chapter, I'll close the book and then I'll just write in my own words the three key takeaways or the three key ideas from the chapter. 2 questions that I have from that chapter, and then 1 action. This is the important part, right? When it comes to changing behavior, 1 action that I'm going to take in the next 24 to 48 hours. And this book, like one thing it talks about is like just smiling at people. He tells a story in this book about like how he improved his relationship with his wife. Whenever he got up in the morning, he would just like have a smile on his face. I'm pretty sure that was the case. Maybe that was me. I don't know. It's been a little while and I need to revisit the information, but I know the principles, right? So he noticed a change in behavior whenever he started using people's names, because it talks about like people's names are like, it's like music to that person's ears. When you use that person's name, it makes them feel seen. And so, again, not in a manipulative sense, like these are just like good behaviors to have from this book, but also it's like you can go out, and I was able to go out and apply it and see things play out in real life. Like, so basically, real life is the test. You tap the knowledge from the book, and then actually going out and applying it is the test, which gives you the feedback that you need so that you can adjust and improve over time. Right. So, no change in behavior. And that's kind of like anything. Right. So, in order to change behaviors, like when we're talking about habits, right, you have to do something so many times before it goes from conscious to the subconscious mind. And so, if you're not going to have any change in behavior, if you're not actually taking any action on any of the things that you read, right? So another common challenge is like ideas don't connect, right? So you're reading isolated books, which is going to mean like lead to shallow understanding, right? So show how connecting ideas across books um, builds the like this polymath brain, right? So I think they call this multidisciplinary thinking is what this is called. So how do ideas connect? How do ideas from how to win friends and influence people connect to make it stick? I just literally did that whenever I was talking about how changing in behavior applies to things that you do. And again, that wasn't like probably the best example, but that's what the overall goal is. And so I can give you another example. Yeah, like so, growth mindset here is or mindset by Carol Dweck. This is a great book for anyone. I recommend you read. It doesn't matter. You see the book cover tells you it's like parenting, business, school, relationships. It'll help anybody. This is great because it gives you an understanding of the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. And honestly, I was able to connect the growth mindset and fixed mindset mentality to what is talked about in Make It Stick when it talks about students who have a willingness to embrace challenges, right? So, whenever it comes to testing yourself and stuff like that, like that's one of those things that whenever you're learning material, if you have a fixed mindset, you believe that your intellectual abilities are fixed, right? You can't change. Or anytime you embrace like or you face challenges, you kind of just like you give up whenever things get hard. And growth-minded individuals, they embrace challenges. They want to prove themselves. They want to like when challenges or whenever they face challenges or whenever they fail, they don't see it as a sign of like an individual characteristic. It just means that they haven't worked hard enough and that they still have more work to do, right? So that's where I kind of connected those ideas together from like, okay, well, in order to be if Make It Stick is a good foundation for self education, and then, well, what's the connect or what's the piece that like gets you to go from, okay, now I can self educate, but like, how do I make this a long term sustainable thing? And it's just like I adopting the identity of the learner. Um, okay, so I rambled a little bit on that. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that made sense, but um, yeah, so those are 3 common challenges that readers face, right? So you can't explain something simply. There's no change in behavior, and then your ideas don't connect, right? So, um, yeah, let me know down in the chat if you have any questions on anything that we talked about up in this point. I'm gonna take another sip of my coffee. If you got questions, drop them down in the chat about anything, right? Again, this is live stream number 2. We have since crossed 250 subscribers, which is pretty crazy. Crazy. Like I'm pretty sure, and I have to look at the analytics. I haven't been watching them too closely. Don't get me wrong. I've been looking at the analytics because anyone that's been a creator here on YouTube, like it's the worst and the biggest mental health battle in the world, right? But I'm pretty sure we were just barely crossed 100 subscribers. Um, at the beginning of January. Now we're almost at 300 subscribers, which is pretty crazy. So, yeah, if you haven't already and you're watching here on the live stream, subscribe to the YouTube channel, whether you're watching live or on the replay. This channel is all about self education and helping people learn and improve their reading ability. Right. So if you're an adult, you feel like you've tried all the self-help books, you've tried the classics, but something just, you just can't put your finger on why things haven't improved in your life. Well, this channel is to help you take that, like, your reading ability to the next level and remember more of what you read, build a self-education system, and just like be that lifelong learner, that renaissance man, or that polymath. And that's ultimately what this channel is all about. So with that being said, we're going to move into um, just kind of a system that you can use uh, to just like bridge between just reading books and actual growth, right? So the first step is to any book that you're reading, right? So let me find, I still haven't finished reading Purple Cow, right? So let me just, this is a book that I'm reading right now. And yeah, the first thing that I did, and this is the step number one, is to pre-read. So that's skim the table of contents, look at chapter summaries, or like read the last paragraph. The reason why you're pre-reading the book is you're building a mental roadmap before you start reading deeply into the book. And think about it like watching, like when you watch a movie for the first time, you don't really, you miss a few things, like there's things that you miss in the movie, but when you watch it the second time, you take away so much more. And so when you pre-read the book, it actually gives you more context going into it, and you're kind of warmed up to the ideas. And you're just skimming the table of contents, and then you're just going to go from there. Like, and then after you've skimmed the entire book. So I think it's really important to do this. Like, they didn't teach us this in school. It's like just open the book and read it from front to back. But if you want to be an analytical reader, like it's as described in the book, How to Read a Book, uh, the first step is just to like pre-read the book and just get an idea of where you're going. The next step is active reading. So that's asking questions while you read. And I'll leave down in the description on the last live stream. Can't believe I don't have it in the description right now. Maybe I can just put it in here right now. I actually have a resource for you if you want to check it out. It's free. It's a bookmark that has, like, what you're going to do to active read is you're going to ask questions while you read. And on the bookmark, I have all the questions that it's pretty much like a checklist for you to be able to go off of and do. Yeah, I'm putting it in the description of this live stream right now. It's a checklist for you to follow while you're reading a book, and it will make it so that you're when you're actively reading, you're not just like decoding words on a page. What you're doing is you're exploring the book. You're going on this adventure. You're looking for information. You're looking for answers to the questions that you have. So some of the questions is like, what is this book about? Do I understand the arguments that the author is trying to present? And how does this apply to me? What of it? Can you state the unity of the book, right? So what is this book about as a whole? Is this book true? Is what the author is presenting, is it true? What are the solutions and the problems that the author is presenting, and what are the solutions? And are they valid? So that's, actively reading. So again, what I do now is I have my pen right here. I read with a pen now. So I'm like going through this thing, and you make a book your own. Like, I used to not be because again, I talked about highlighting earlier, in the court of just like having something and like highlighting, but it's actually incredibly powerful whenever you can have a pen, read your book, and then you can just kind of go through here. And I use this pen as a tool, and I talked about this in another video. A quick tip on, like, if you want to be better focused when you're reading, use a pointer, like whether it's your finger, a pen. You can use you can use a bookmark. You can use the bookmark that I have. I don't think I have it here right now, but the bookmark that is in the description of this video, you can print it out and you can use that. That's the whole reason I did it. So you can have it there. You can use that, but just have something to kind of guide where your eyes need to look, right? So if you're just looking at the plain page like this with your eyes, that requires there's a little bit of energy, more energy that's required to do that. that could slow you down, take away from your focus and stuff. But whenever you have something pointing at those words and your eyes know where to go, it makes it a lot easier to read. Okay, so kind of went on a tangent there, but the point I was trying to get at is like you want to ask questions and you want to engage with the book, right? So that was the whole point with the pen is like write in the margins, write questions that you have, argue with the author about certain points, or just underline certain key things. Underline the things that you don't understand too. Don't just underline the things that are like, oh, aha, like these aha moments. Like, of course, those are good, but underline the things that you kind of like don't really understand because those are opportunities for you to learn. Those are the opportunities for you to be able to learn and grow and expand your knowledge. Um, and because there's going to be things that you don't really know and understand, uh, and that's okay to highlight those things too. And don't let those slow you down. And the book, How to Read a Book, it talks about it's like the burden between of the author that the author has with the reader is the communication, right? You have to come to terms with the author, right? So you might like I don't know your vocabulary. Again, I don't, again, mine can definitely be improved. I don't have the best vocabulary. And when I read a book, especially when you're reading the classics, some of the language that's used in there is like, man, like the burden that the author has is like they need to communicate what they're trying to communicate to you so that you understand it. The burden of the reader is like coming to terms with the author, right? So we have to understand what the author is trying to tell us, right? So again, if you don't understand something, that's fine. Again, you can. I wouldn't recommend like use context clues and things like that. That's going to be far more effective than just immediately going to Chat GPT and typing in. Like I used to do this. Like, I used to be like, and you can still do this. Again, if you're as long as you're working on the information and you're like visiting it and you're just like making it meaningful, I think you can always like you can use resources like Chat GPT or Google AI Studio where like I read on my computer and then like had Google AI Studio open in the background and you it's like a screen recorder to where you can literally like highlight a certain section of the book you're reading and you can have it explain it to you at the ninth grade reading level, which is good. But it's almost even it's far better for you to be able to explain that at the ninth grade reading level. So don't it's like cheating on a test, right? Um it's going to require you to wrestle with that information far longer than it would if you were to just kind of come to that conclusion on your own or that make that summarization on your own. Okay. So as far as like note taking, right? So we went through that's what we covered so far is pre-reading and then active reading, going in there, engaging with the book, making it an adventure or a journey versus just decoding words on a page. And you do that by asking questions and engaging with the book. Next is note taking. So I try to avoid linear note taking and excessive highlighting. I try to keep it pretty minimal. Again, the reason why I do this is because if I make it academic, like I make it like school, then I will not sustain it. Right? I put all this pressure on myself for years. I've talked about it in other videos where I just would take pages and pages of notes inside of Notion, or I've also used Obsidian as well. And like what I've realized is like it's not really necessary to take all of those notes. What I like to do is kind of create like a mind map. And here I got something here. It's kind of ripped up right now from let me see if I can show you a better one. Yeah. But what I like to do is try to create a mind map so that I can kind of connect the ideas. Yeah. So this was like from How to Read a Book. You can kind of see a little bit of what I've done here, where I'm connecting the ideas and I'm writing notes. And again, this is kind of ripped over here. So sorry it got ripped up. But what this is doing is it's allowing me to better understand. And it's not it's much more easier and enjoyable than just writing tons and tons and tons of notes because I would write all these notes with and then I would just never go back and look at them, which was a whole lot of work and very little return on investment. So I created my map to kind of connect those ideas. And then I try to connect them to something I already know. And now when I'm doing my linear note taking, because I do when I do my chapter capture method, right? So it's 3 key takeaways, 2 questions that I have for the author, and then 1 thing that I'm going to take action on in the next 24 to 48 hours. Those are just 3, like it's 3, 2, 1. So to help you remember that, 3 things that you just have to do for each chapter. And I found that by doing that, takes the pressure off, makes reading much more enjoyable, and it makes it sustainable. That's the system that works for me. Now, is there other ways of taking notes and doing long linear notes and stuff like that, and it's effective? Yes, probably. But for me, in order to make reading sustainable, this was the method or the system that has worked for me. And I'm always improving things, right? So as I continue to refine my process, I will share that with you on the channel. But right now, this is I'm reading books at a rate that I'm happy with. I'm happy with the things that I've learned, and I'm continuing to learn, and I feel good. Finally, at a point in my life where I feel good about the books that I read, versus just like always forgetting everything or feeling like it's just like this daunting process that I just don't want to do. So yeah, that's the note taking piece. And I can do a whole video on note taking. Let me know if that's something that you're interested in, because I haven't made a video on that, but I also didn't know if it was something that you would be interested in. Because a lot of the feedback I've been getting is like the reading tips, but reading and note taking kind of go hand in hand on this channel. So again, let me know if that's something you're interested in. You can let me know in the chat or down in the comments below on the replay. So yeah, that's note taking. Now, post reading and reflection, right? So after you've read the book, summarize the book in like 2 to 3 sentences. So, in How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. For those of you, if you're just hopping on the stream, this book here, How to Read a Book, great for anyone that's wanting to get into reading, and just trying to develop a self education system. So, all that to be said, post reading in the book, they talk about state the unity of the book in the least amount of words possible. So that means summarize the book and cover everything for like in the least amount of words possible, 2 to 3 sentences. Now that doesn't mean like the key details, but it means like summarize the book down to and for me, what I've taken from the book, and this is my best summarization of it, the book is that How to Read a Book teaches people that want to read books how to read books in a way that is designed for self education. And it teaches you the tactics and fundamentals to be able to engage with a book and read deeply so that you can extract the most from a book instead of just reading at a surface level. So that's kind of what my summarization of it is. Now you can go that even deeper by talking about like the problems and solutions that the author presented. But the main problem that the author presented in this book is that most people are not taught how to read properly, and they're only taught at the elementary. Most people read at the elementary level, but that's only one level of the 4 levels of reading. Um, and so, yeah, the author presents that that's the problem, and then how to actively or to analytically read. Um, that's what the author solves. It's like how to engage with the book, how to argue with the right questions to ask, and how to make reading a long-term sustainable habit. Okay, so that is your post-reading reflection, right? Ask, do I understand the problems and the solutions presented? And revisit and integrate those ideas across other books or experiences that you have. Um, let me know. So, step 1 is pre-reading. Step 2 is active reading. Step 3 is note taking, and then step 4 is post-reading and reflection. And so, let me know which one. Let me know down in the chat or down in the comments if you're watching on the replay. Which do you struggle with the most? Um, all right, I'm gonna get one more sip of coffee, and then we'll kind of move on. Um, I talked a little bit about this earlier with mindset, but we'll move into like the identity of being a reader and the lifelong learner. All right. So I read the book. It was last year actually. Mindset by Carol Dweck. Great book. Anyone that or for anyone. If you're a parent, definitely got to read this. Got to teach your kids the growth mindset. Well, the reason why is just because you're teaching them resilience. And you're teaching them like with their like getting into education and stuff like that when they're going into school. It's about for me like praise is a natural thing that comes as a parent for me for my child. Like I'm so proud of you for this and this, but it talks about it cautions you. This is just speaking from the parenting perspective. It cautions you on like just praising on specific outcome things, right? So you're so smart, you're so beautiful. because what that does is that they create an identity around that. And then whenever they fall short or they feel like they're falling short of those things, then they give up. They don't want to do it anymore. Right. So like kids that there was different experiments that were ran, and they did studies where like kids that were like tested on like kids that had the growth mindset that were praised a certain way, that were praised based on their ability to perform, did far worse than kids that were praised on their hard work ethic. Right. So a lot of times when I'm with my daughter, and she does something good, like we're at dance class and stuff, I'm like, babe or baby girl, you did so good. I'm so proud of you. Or I probably better. It's like, I'm so proud of you. You were such a hard worker. That's like always the thing. She says it all the time. Daddy, you know, I'm just such a hard worker. And I said, and that's so what I try to do is I try to praise the effort that she puts into it. And I've noticed it like significantly, how it's affect her, like her willpower and her drive. Um, and you know, again, it's not going to be perfect. Again, and the book talks about like there's going to be fixed mindset aspects. We all have that in certain areas of our life, and it's just trying to identify those fixed mindset areas. But why do I say all this, right? Well, if we are so critical of ourselves that we're just like we can't read, we can't comprehend, we can't do anything right when it comes to reading. Um, then we won't ever grow. You know, reading is the gateway to becoming the person that you want to be. So it's like not about finishing more books, it's about thinking smarter, remembering more, and applying knowledge in real life. So basically, reading is a skill and you have to develop it over time. If you don't put in the work, you won't get the results that you're after. And a lot of people don't want to hear that, like, hey, reading requires effort. But it's just like if you the example that's given in how to read a book is like whenever you are learning to ski. Like there's a bunch of different things that you got to think about. You got to think about not falling. You got to think about like how to stop, how to turn, how to do all these, how to stay on your feet. And there's all these different things you have to think about when you're going and you're skiing. And skiing is a bad example for me because I haven't ever been skiing before, but I have been snowboarding, and I have gotten my butt kicked when it comes to snowboarding. Like slide down 2 feet, fall down 2 feet, or get up, slide down 2 feet, fall down. Like just fell down the entire hill. And it was comical for anyone that was watching, I'm sure. But eventually I kind of with enough feedback, with that feedback loop, like, okay, this isn't working. I need to do this. Like, and so I was just thinking about, how do I slow down? How do I, kind of lean forward on my toes or lean back, depending on how I'm going, and kind of weaving back and forth to kind of naturally slow myself down. And so all that to be said, it's about like just going and putting in the reps and then getting that feedback over time. Watching the content on this YouTube channel, and just applying. Don't try to just consume a whole bunch and then just try to go and apply all of it at the same time. And that's the concept. Whenever you try to do everything when you're skiing or when you're snowboarding and you're trying to think about all those things, you're inevitably going to fall. And you call that you're inevitably going to fail when it comes to reading. So just try to improve a little bit every time you go to read. Right. So if you can't even open a book right now and you just like, for whatever reason, it's just so hard, it's so difficult for you to get started, don't read a book. Like don't pick up one of these. Like just download Audible. And if you want to go the free route, don't even download Audible. Go on YouTube and find the audio book version of the book that you're trying to read or listen to, and start there. I made a whole video on this. Like, start as small as possible and start building the identity around being the reader. Man, when I first started getting back into books, I was in the military, and we had an assignment from my platoon commander, was like we had to read this book called Black Hearts. And I talked about this on the last stream, and I was not about reading. Like when I was in high school, I did not care anything about reading. Like other kids read, but it was not interesting to me at all. I cared more about going out with my friends, doing stuff, being crazy, and I did not care about reading. So whenever this assignment was given to us, I'm like, okay, how can I get this done and still like be able to speak to the book, right? So, and then Audible it was like a thing at that time. So I downloaded that and then I listened to the whole book, and I'm like, man, this is actually really good. Like, I wonder if I could do this for other areas, because there was a lot of good takeaways that I got from that book, because it's a book on leadership and how poor leadership can lead to very bad things within your unit. And because there some soldiers did some pretty horrific things to people whenever they were in combat. And there was just good takeaways that were there. And I was like, man, if I can read this, then there's other books that I can read as well, and or listen to this, and there's other books I can listen to, and I can get some like one of the principles in the military and the Marine Corps was like know yourself and seek self improvement. And that is a quality that I've always had, even after the military. It's like know what I need to, like what I'm falling short on. Again, and I use self improvement lightly because if you've been consuming any personal development content, you know that like when you kind of quote unquote say self improvement, it's you're like subconsciously saying I'm not enough. I would just say self development, like Joe Hudson talks about this on his channel. But like self development is kind of where you're trying to go. Like, so I know there's things in my life I need to work on, right? I know that I'm a sinner. I'm not perfect, and there's areas in my life that I can always improve on. And so that's what I kind of focus on, right? So with that being said, you start with the audiobooks first, and then you move on to the physical books later, right? So audiobooks, then try to get the physical book with the audiobook and listen and read the physical book at the same time. This is dual encoding, right? So it's being stored in more places. You got the auditory and you got the visual. And when you do that, it locks you in. It's so much easier to focus whenever you're listening and reading at the same time. And you're going to comprehend more because it's going in more places. And then eventually what you can do, because this is what happens with the audio kind of slows you down. You can technically read, and again, I'm not saying to try to be a speed reader, but you can read faster, and then you can visually read books faster and comprehend than you can listening to an audiobook and comprehend, if that makes sense. So if you want to get through books and you don't, because eventually, like the more times you read, the faster you're going to get naturally, and you're going to comprehend more. Again, I'm not one for for speed reading. That's just me. I think you should slow down, wrestle with the material, and if you're just again, this is just my opinion. If you're trying to speed read through books, it's more of a volume game, and it should be more of a depth game in this situation. Like, now, don't get me wrong. It depends on the state that you're in, right? Because when you're trying to read books and you're trying to build the identity of being a reader, like volume can be good because the more books that you just read without like putting a bunch of pressure on yourself, the better. The basically the more practice you have, the better you're going to get. But when you're just doing it for the sake of speed and you're just looking for a specific outcome, I think it's far more effective to just uh, build depth of knowledge and rather than just a surface level knowledge across many different books. That's just my opinion, and that's just the way that I approach learning and reading as well. So again, not to get off track, but um, again, reading is just it's just about like it's skills, and you just got to work on it over time. But then yeah, go into the physical book is what was about to get at. You go from audiobook to audiobook plus physical book, and then you do it without the physical book. And when you're doing it without the physical book, well, it's going to be hard at first, but that's okay because it's forming a new habit. Anything, right? There's a good book out there by Seth Godin. I'm reading Purple Cow right now by Seth Godin, but he's also got another good book called The Dip. And anything in life worthwhile is found on the other side of the dip. When you first start reading a book, that's why when you first read the first chapter of the book, you're like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm making some progress. And then like, okay, close the book. And then a few weeks go by and you're like, you never went back to that book, right? Because it's easy at first, you're doing well. And then you hit that area of resistance where it's going to go down. And then it's about getting on the other side of the dip and getting in the only way to achieve anything meaningful in life. And the book talks about is like, that's why you shouldn't try to do a million different things because you have to go through the dip for everything, right? There's a barrier to entry. And I think in 12-week year, it calls about, there's the valley of despair. You got to go through it. And that's part of being the reader. And just when you're doing that, like just show up and like the best that you can. Right. So for me, it depends. Like if I have a crazy work day and I'm super busy, I'll come home and I'll be like, man, I am not feeling reading tonight. You know what? I'll listen to an audiobook or I'll come in here and read a book that I just like is a fiction book. Like I even, when I was at Goodwill the other day and I found one of my childhood favorite books. And so I bought that and I read a little bit of that just to kind of reminisce on just like, where was my head at whenever I was a kid? And like, why did these things interest me? So, for your low energy days, just read lighter books, like, that where you don't have a bunch of, or just listen to an audiobook. And for the days that you feel like you have more energy, like get into that more dense material and go from there. And so I think that's just a good way of just like kind of forming that identity, because that's how you build the habit. Everything is like kind of downstream of identity, and you can really build that identity and make it strong by just like starting off by listening to audiobooks and just being that, like, the learner. I have found that, because life is, and this is just, try not to get all like mushy gushy or whatever you want to call it, but life for me is just all about, like, it's all about the journey. And there, the destination is, well, there is no real destination, because when we get there, um we're not, it was, when we reflect on like our goals and stuff, it's like we get to the destination, it's like, man, we're really, like, it was really fun, it was about the journey. And then we get to the destination, it's not as, like, it's cool, but it's very short lived, because then you're like, crap, what am I going to do next? um when we get this channel to 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to be like, oh, man, this was a lot of work, but, like, we got to get to 1 million. We got to grow this community even larger. Like, we want to just, like, and so I say that not to sound like ungrateful or anything like that, but I say that to say that, like, when you are, like, man, I feel like I just lost my train of thought. I went down this whole, like, mushy gushy route, but it's like about the journey of growing and stuff like that. Um, and as you are doing it, it's not about, yeah. When you adopt the identity of being the learner, this is my point. Um, what you do is you take the edge off of any failures that you may have, any mistakes that you may make, and you look at life in a completely different way. That was for me. Like, I come from a military background where it's like, if you make a mistake, it can be life or death. So with that, with a pinch of salt, right? Depending on what your profession is, what you do in a combat situation, like having that all or nothing mentality, like zero tolerance for failure, is absolutely necessary. But when I got out of the military and I tried to apply that in my day to day, it was actually like, it was um it the word I'm looking for is just like, it didn't help me, right? It was not helpful. It was actually worked against where I was trying to go. Again, because I'm no longer in a combat situation. So having the learner hat on is like not being afraid of making mistakes. Um and looking at mistakes as feedback, and not like, and I like, it's a like you as an individual. Like, for a long time, I would believe that if I screwed something up, then that mean I was a screw up. Like, I was just not like, and that was like, it was really messed up. And that's not necessarily the case. Like, of course, if you screw things up, well, yeah, you got some good feedback, and if you did something really stupid, then yeah, you probably do need to. Um, I'm not giving you a pass for bad behavior. But what I am saying is like, you're going to make mistakes, you make decisions, there's going to be risks, and a decision is better than no decision. And you get the feedback, and then you kind of iterate and you adjust over time. So that's the same way. That's like the identity of just being the learner, is that you can do all that and not be afraid to take risk or worry about failing. So if that's the case, then reading a book shouldn't have this crazy amount of pressure to it. You just are. You just read the book, and yeah, you just kind of go from there. So again, one of the things you can do is like, this is the thing that you uh pick the last book that you read, right? Well, first I want to say, slow down and just like focus on the next book, right? Don't think about 20 books, don't think about 50 books. Focus on, like, just making some progress on the next book. Some people are like, yeah, just read 10 pages. For me, I'm just like, just read for, 5 minutes, even if that's just one page. Um, and reading is reading. You do it every day, a lot of the times. Like, you'll read when you're on social media and you're looking at, things on Instagram or Facebook, or you're reading things. So if you can do that, then you can read books. It's just a matter of like taking some time to be intentional, and putting yourself in a situation where you don't have so many distractions. And I've made tons of videos on this topic at this point to like how to improve your focus to be a better reader. Check those out on the channel. But yeah, so pick the last book that you read and summarize one key idea. And then I want you to identify one action that you're going to take in the next 24 to 48 hours. So for me, I'll tell you what I have done. Um, and it's kind of something that I've been doing lately. I'm reading this book right now called Stand Firm and Act Like Men. You may have seen this guy. And it's just a book that just kind of reminds you like of things that as a guy, um, you should know. And so there's steps in that book, like things that I'm like, just being more mindful of now. So like one of the things that one of the action items in that book was to take someone in your family and pray over them, and just don't even like say anything about like what it is. Just pull them to a quiet space. And so I pulled my daughter in uh, to the hallway and just prayed over her. And that's one of the action items that I did. And the reason why is just like to protect the people that I love in my home. And so that's what I did for her, and also is a way to apply what I'm learning about in the book. The teaching point was that you need to prayer is so powerful in your home to protect um, from the one that's trying to that seeks to steal, kill, and destroy. And so that's one of the things I've done to try to protect in my home. And so yeah, that's the one of the key things. Just to give you an example of something I've done, and I did that like within 24 hours. Um, and sometimes I say it might feel a little bit uncomfortable to do some of these things, right? So like, and How to Win Friends and Influence People, it was sometimes it might feel uncomfortable to use somebody's name or to smile or to ask questions about things that appeal to the things that the other person is into. Like it might feel unnatural to have that in your conversation. But when you do that, you get feedback and you can go back and revisit the information. And then that's how you learn. It's through that feedback. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'll hang out for just a few minutes. We've been going for almost an hour here. Unless somebody has a question, or you have questions in if you're watching on the replay, drop them down in the comments. I'd love to hear you all's feedback. Again, we've reached 250 subscribers on this channel. I think we're past that at this point. But it's just insane the amount of growth that's happened on this channel. Um, I'm just, to build a community of people that want to like get into reading is so cool, because reading it's changed my life so much. It's helped me just become, like 2 years ago, I was a completely different person than I am today. And I attribute that to reading. And I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. And that's on this channel, it's all about like sharing the mistakes I made. And I'm still making mistakes. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to position myself as this all-knowing, like, hey, I am human just like all of you, and I have some of the same struggles. I still come home from work and I'm like, I don't want to read any books today. I don't want to listen to any audiobooks today. And yeah, so it's not easy. And so like for that, I try to put protective measures in place. So I'm like, okay, if I know I'm going to get home tonight, I'm not going to want to read anything because I have all this work to do later. I got to shoot YouTube videos, I got to script videos, or whatever I have to do whenever I get home. Then I'm listening to an audiobook in my truck. Then like on my commute home, because I'm like, I need to do something. And again, that's that negative self-talk. And so be careful with that. But I'm just like, okay, I know I'm not going to want to do anything when I get home. Let's just turn on an audiobook and listen for a few minutes. Even 15 minutes is fine. Like it's still progress and it's still reinforcing the identity. So if there's no questions, that's cool too. As far as like here live on the stream. But it was cool hanging out with everybody. Sorry for being late. Hopefully what was covered in the stream is like, it was helpful. And it wasn't confusing. Again, it's always different whenever it's live, because whenever I'm doing the videos, I have like a loose script that I go off of, and then I know where I'm trying to go. But with this, I mean, I have an agenda here, but Yeah, I sometimes I can when you're live, you can go on a tangent. Let me know if that happens to you sometimes whenever you're having conversations with people. And I just want to be respectful of your time. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Um, and if you're watching on the replay, enjoy the rest of your week. Um, and yeah, keep learning, keep growing, keep going. I'll see you in the next one.